Welcome to the MMA Outsiders podcast. Andrew Pearson and AJ Heather.
Welcome to the MMA Outsiders, episode 12, I do believe, right, AJ?
Shit, I don't know, man. I've lost count.
I think it's episode 12. I'm not counting the times when we've had 2 episodes in a week. But yeah, so let's get going. We're supposed to have a special guest today, but we might be able to circle back to that. Maybe next week, we'll see. Yeah, so we've got a Sunday evening card this week. Duho Choi versus Jeremy Stephens.
Yeah.
Paige Van Zandt's coming back to face Jessica Rose Clark at 125. Yeah, we've got Kamaru Usman fighting Emil Mech. What's the other one? What's the co-main event? Oh, yeah. Vitor Belfort versus Uriah Hall. And then next week we have a really good Bellator and UFC doubleheader. We'll probably get into the Bellator side a little bit. You got Rory McDonald versus Douglas Lima, a really fantastic welterweight main event. You got Rampage Jackson fighting Del Sonnen. You got Aaron Pico and Michael Chandler fighting, not each other, but they're both fighting on the card. So it's pretty much the best Bellator has to offer. So we can go over that a little bit.
Yeah.
AJ, what are you most excited about this weekend?
This weekend?
Yeah, with the Jeremy Stephens card.
Darren Elkins, Michael Johnson.
Oh, that's right. Headlining the prelims. Thanks for pointing that out. Who are you picking?
Shit, man.
It's a tough one, right?
Yeah, probably Darren Elkins, maybe, but Michael Johnson.
Michael Johnson could knock him out.
Yeah, it just depends. It just depends, because you know how Darren Elkins has that like head first, crazy old school get beat up and try to fuck the other guy up, brawler mentality, and he's a great wrestler too. I just see Michael Jackson maybe having the edge on that. But you never know.
I don't know, man. Darren Elkins' last fight, he was fighting Dennis Bermudez. Man, I was mad because I was going for Bermudez. He's also a really powerful wrestler. But he just did a lot of reckless things in the beginning. And Darren Elkins, if you do something reckless, he'll suck you into his world, which is just a grinding, grab you, hold you against the cage, maybe throw you down. Yeah, I mean, Bermudez kind of finally put together a normal game plan for the third round and kind of picked him apart. But
I don't know. Before that, Mirsad Bektic, he was losing. Darren Elkins was losing that fight, and then he ended up knocking the guy out.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. I'm gonna go with Darren Elkins just because, that win over Bektic was incredible mental toughness. The win over Bermudez was just he just has the ability to make it work especially if he grabs a hold of you.
Yeah. He's
so strong. And we've seen Michael Johnson has this tendency to get sucked into other fighters' games. We saw it with Khabib Nurmagomedov. We saw it with Nate Diaz.
Yeah.
And he has some good wins too, man. He could knock him out, but I don't know. I'm done picking against Darren Elkins for now, unless it's against the very top of the
five win streak or something like that.
Yeah. Now he's put together a couple of these too. The last time he got ended by Chad Mendez.
Yeah.
And he's since moved to Team Alpha Male, so he's training with these guys that are really good wrestlers. They're really good at putting together wrestle-centric game plans. So yeah, I'm the other thing that makes me question the Michael Johnson thing is it's his first cut to 145.
Yes.
And he apparently didn't do a trial cut. He's just gonna cut straight down to it. So that extra
kind of thing
can really
going to featherweight.
What's that?
So kind of like an Anthony Pettis thing going to featherweight.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder. That cut was really hard on Anthony Pettis. It could be really hard on Michael Johnson too. I mean, it's not like he's not a big lightweight, but he's not a small lightweight either.
Yeah.
So Yeah, I don't know. That makes me question it too. And I guess for those reasons, I'll pick Elkins. But it's an interesting fight. He could easily duck into an uppercut and go lights out.
Hey,
Johnson
yeah,
is really fast for lightweight, and he's
yeah,
probably pretty fast for featherweight too.
yeah, and they're both obviously very tough guys. But I'm just gonna have the edge on Michael Jackson for this fight. But Darren Elkins, man,
All right.
can't count that dude out. Hey, real quick, what happened to Jessica Rose Clark this week?
Yeah. So, really sad story. She got her house broken into. Whoever broke into it not only trashed the place but kicked her cat in the ribs and caved her ribs in. Last I heard, she had to get surgery for the cat, and she wasn't sure whether it was going to live or die. So whoever did it is a piece of shit and deserved to have a professional ass beating placed on them. But yeah, that's a hell of a distraction to have fight week and just a hell of a thing to happen
You
in
ever,
general.
you know what? Like, uh, you know, you know that movie coming out called Tanya? You seen the previews for that?
No,
No, you haven't seen that. So,
I have
man,
not.
like, wouldn't it be fucked up if it was like a Tanya Harding kind of thing, Nancy Kerrigan? Have you seen that? You know what I'm talking about?
No, I have no idea what you're talking about. Enlighten me.
It's where they were figure skaters, and Tanya Harding hired some guy to take her legs out with a baton. You see
So
that
you're
shit?
saying
I'm not saying anything.
saying-
I'm just saying in the realm of possibility, how fucked up would that be?
Paige Van Zandt's maybe her new boyfriend had some underworld connections.
Sage
Yeah, that
Northcutt,
would be great.
Super Sage.
Sage Northcutt.
Dude, that motherfucker kicks hard though. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, pretty tough guy.
Yeah, dude.
But
So an
he's like,
update on that. I'm looking at her Twitter right now. Apparently the cat is dead.
oh
So
shit, that is terrible.
yeah, yeah.
God.
She said $30,000 worth of stuff stolen and a beloved pet gone. She said stuff doesn't matter. I just want to see them punished for what they did to poor Dwight.
You think it's like a bunch of kids or something? Either way, like.
Uh,
I mean, I had
but
that
that's
happen to me
ru-
when I was younger. Like, I had some these crackheads broke into our house, and the cat, man, just ran away. But it was pretty fucking scary. I was like 10 years old. But it was pretty fucking scary because the cops, because I was supposed to stay there, and my dad was supposed to pick me up that day. And I usually don't get dropped off by my stepdad like in the summertime, or I used to didn't get dropped off by my stepfather at my dad's house in the summertime because it was kind of out of the way, and I was going to sleep in a little bit. But for that specific day, I was like, man, I kind of just want to get to my dad's house. And woke up at like 7 o'clock. My stepfather dropped me off. Roll around 3 o'clock. My mom comes home, and somebody broke into our house, dude. I could have been there during that time, and the cops were saying, man, they would have probably like beat the shit out of me. They were,
Wow.
like, notorious. Dude. Yeah, dude, it was fucking crazy, dude. Pretty scary shit.
That's man. That was actually always my fear as a kid. Like I never was afraid of ghosts or goblins or monsters or anything like that, but I was afraid of people breaking into my house.
You know what I was afraid of?
Kidnapping. Yeah.
Cannibals. I was afraid of cannibals, bro.
Cannibals. Yeah.
Cannibals.
I was afraid of like things that I thought could actually happen.
Well, cannibals
But,
can fucking. Cannibals. Are you saying cannibals aren't real? Is that what you're saying right now?
Yeah, pretty much.
Cannibals don't exist.
Have you ever met a cannibal?
I've seen them on TV.
I guarantee you met a thief.
No, you know what? I had this fear. I used to watch Unsolved Mysteries when I was a kid. I had this fear of this lady that would kill like her husbands and steal their money, and I thought she was gonna come kill me like when I was like 4.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. She's gonna marry you at 4.
Super outrageous. Like just terrified to tell my dad. I was like, hey man, that lady's gonna come kill me, the Black Widow. He's like, son, I don't even have enough money for that shit, Yeah.
Speaking of, they're doing a Black Widow solo movie. Do you see that?
Is this comic book shit?
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, you don't give a shit about that, do you?
No, I don't give a shit about any of that. And nor do I have a TV or anything, so I don't get to see those previews.
You have a.
I didn't even know Trump was elected president until 2 weeks later. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding on that one.
Yeah. So So yeah, man. I'm still picking Jessica Rose Clark. By the way, I think she's probably gonna beat Paige Van Zandt up pretty badly.
Were you ever on that Paige hype train? Were you ever part of that?
When she was winning, yeah. And you know what happened? Well, first of all, she started losing like badly. Rose Namajunas kicked her ass,
Fucked her
and
up.
then she started fighting like she changed up her fighting style. I never thought she would be champion, but I thought she could go pretty far. But her whole game was kind of like swarming and clinching against the fence, and she wasn't really good at striking. And then she just decided like she was just gonna strike from long range. She got that one like pretty cool switch kick knockout over Beck Rawlings,
Yeah, I remember that.
but she still looks pretty kind of bad out at range. And so I was like, if she's not swarming, then what is she? Yeah, so she doesn't seem like she has a lot of good coaching, and I don't know that's any better. She's gone from from Team Alpha Male, sorry, but she's at some really small gym. Maybe she's getting one-on-one training. Maybe she'll come out looking way better. But just based on what we've seen from her before, I think Jessica Rose Clark is gonna beat her up pretty badly.
Right on.
Yeah, and I like Jessica Rose Clark. She's a good fighter. She's a good striker. She's real kind of smooth and fluid, and well, lots of tattoos. Really pretty.
Mm-hmm.
I like her.
And you know she's gonna be pissed, like going in there because of what happened. You know, so she's got that rage.
I hope so. I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, do you think that helps fighters? I know it helps some fighters, but
yeah. I mean, it just depends. I think they're professionals. Like, so I think a lot of people that are, not all of them, obviously, but I think it's more common nowadays to have a mental coach. So they probably there's a lot of guys and girls that have a hold on their emotions when it comes to fight week. I mean, it would be hard. You know, I always think about like Holly Holm, because she's married, right? And I always wonder how rough that is to go and, you know, travel to these fights and do these things, and your husband's still in New Mexico, or he might be with her. I don't know. But I always wonder, I'm like, man, that's got to be a rough life to be married and then train for a fight and then go to a different country, lose the fight or win the fight, whatever. But last time, you know, she lost to Cyborg. They went to Vegas, right? It was in Vegas, I think. But
yeah, I think it was in Vegas.
Either way, I mean, it's a rough life, you know. So they would have to have some kind of a hold on their mental game. But now, you know, they're traveling to for this fight, St. Louis, and Jessica Rose Clark, you know, coming from a different country. All that shit's happening. She's gonna have to have a really big hold on her mental game, and hopefully, you know, being on the main card.
Well, I think she lives in Vegas now.
Oh, does she? Okay, cool.
That's where her apartment was broken into, was in Vegas.
Oh shit. Oh wow. Okay. Well, that's crazy. Hopefully, you know, she comes a game ready, you know, but I'm sure she'll be fine. Yeah, but it's got to take a little bit of a toll on her. It would on me, I know that, but I always have a lot of faith in fighters because mentally they got to be a little bit more tougher than the average person, you know.
Yeah,
but maybe not.
Yeah,
you know, who knows?
I mean, who knows? You know who benefits from fighting pissed off is the guy in the co-main event, Uriah Hall.
Oh yeah.
If you can like, I watched this fight with Robert Whittaker, and there was this point, I think it was in the third round, where Whittaker, he jabbed him. It wasn't a poke, but he got him in the eye, and it wasn't a poke. So he kept going, and Uriah Hall thought like, oh, it should be stopped. Like, that's not how fighting works. Like, but
right.
So Whittaker was just coming after him while his eyes all hurt, and like when he finally like clinched up. And when he finally broke out of the clinch, he was really pissed off. Like, it just like woke him up. I don't know if he thought like he was like there's some injustice in that decision. There wasn't. But whatever it was, like he came out like a house on fire, and it was really terrifying because suddenly he was pulling the trigger, and Uriah Hall always has trouble pulling the trigger.
Right.
And like he was throwing just terrifying. He hit Whittaker with like a head kick. He was connecting on a lot of different shots, and he's really dynamic. But it's like, man, why don't you fight like that all the time? Why don't you fight like that all the time? I don't know.
There was
that's a guy that he's worked with sports psychologists, but that's I do think like we talk about Uriah Hall. I think like his issues as a fighter are far more psychological than they are physical or even like in terms of talent.
Yeah,
But
there was Brendan Schaub had mentioned something in his last podcast or his Big Brown Breakdown podcast about Uriah Hall being one of the most talented guys he'd ever seen in the gym, but when it's the difference between gym good and competition good. There's a complete difference, and that's where again we come into the mental training aspect of it. Sparring, there are plenty of people that have sparred, but there are not that many people that have been in an actual fight, and you know more than I do about competitive fighting, the mental difference when you're preparing for a fight as opposed to just sparring with somebody in the gym. You know, it's
the feeling is
different.
totally different.
Completely different. Yes.
Yeah.
And I even know for me, you know, being in a fight in the street or anything like that, when I was younger, you have a different motivation. You know, if you're sparring in there to learn. Sparring's a tool. Drilling is a tool to prepare you for the fight. But when you're actually in the fight, there is a mental barrier that you have to overcome as well. There's a fear there. There is, I mean, how many people do you know that are, I don't know if you've known people like that, but there are people that I've heard of in the back crying, dreading going out there and fighting the person. There are also people that don't give a shit and they're really cool, like our good friend Iceman Chuck Liddell. You know, so it's whether or not Uriah comes game ready, which he fucking should against Vitor. I mean, Vitor's on the last leg of his career, but he still is a dangerous person, you know. So
Vitor's mentally inconsistent as well, but just in like different ways.
Yeah.
Vitor, I think, comes out super confident,
right?
But then if you dent his confidence or show him that like he can't hurt you or like that you can hurt him consistently, then he tends to crumble, or at least he has historically. Not always. We'll see if he does against Uriah Hall.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it's really in some ways it's kind of opposites. You got a guy who has a lot of trouble pulling the trigger, versus a guy in Vitor who comes out super confident, I think super willing to pull the trigger if he sees an opening.
Yeah.
But the other thing is neither one of them really puts anything consistent in your face.
Yeah.
You know, I think Vitor's more ready to jump on an opening, like, you know, that from the very beginning. I mean, we talk about how fighters evolve, but very often, like, the basic template of who they are stays the same since the beginning. So, like, when he knocked out Vanderlei Silva with, like, 30 punches in like, 10 seconds, way back when, that's what he is, I think, as a fighter. He's a guy who's a finisher, and he'd wait to pounce on an opening, and once he sees it, he really goes after it.
Right.
But versus Uriah Hall waits, and if he's an opening, like he'll jump on it, but he doesn't necessarily like swarm you. So it's going to be a really interesting matchup between two guys. Like, obviously Uriah Hall's a lot younger, but Vitor is still, I mean, like, the years of TRT did him good. He's still fast. He's still accurate, and he's still powerful. So
yeah, it's going to be a good fight. I'm going to pick Uriah Hall.
Yeah, I think I would have to as well. Vitor's, man, well, he said, did you hear that he wanted $10 million for his next fight?
What?
So he said, I'm going to retire unless they give me $10 million.
Bye, bitch. Damn. Like, God, yeah.
First of all, he's not going to retire, and he's also not going to get $10 million. He's been saying he's going to retire for like 10 fights now.
Jesus, that last knockout fucked his head up a little bit, I guess. Jeez Louise.
Why would they give him $10 million? I mean, yeah, no, there's no way.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. All right, man. Jeremy Stevens, Duho Choi. Who you got?
I'm picking Duho Choi because I believe in Duho Choi, but Jeremy Stevens is a really tough fight for him. And I'm really excited for it because this is perfect matchmaking, in my opinion. Like, this is one of the best fights the featherweight division can have in terms of not only talent, but, like, stylistic matchup. Duho Choi's awesome.
Yeah.
What's that?
I said I'm going with Jeremy Stevens, but keep going.
Okay. So I think Choi's like straight punches are gonna spell trouble for Stevens, but if you can't put him away, we've seen him get hit with hooks over the top, and that's what Jeremy Stevens. When you hit him, that you come after him, that's what he throws. He just wings just wild punches, kind of wide hooks at you.
Yeah.
And I think Choi's gonna have to like stay disciplined and just pop the jab in his face and kind of be careful with the distance. He likes to stand pretty close, but I think if he can kind of manage the distance in fine gradients and kind of avoid those return swings, I think he'll be okay.
Yeah.
Stevens has those low kicks, which could be interesting, but I don't know. It will be interesting over 5 rounds. Like I think Doo Ho Choi could knock him out, but Stevens is really hard to put away. And Stevens could knock Doo Ho Choi out, but he doesn't get a lot of knockouts, even though he hits hard. So we'll see. Why are you picking Stevens?
Just because I want him to win. That's it. It's the only reason.
Are
I
you
have no dog in this
Are you a
fight.
fan of Jeremy Stevens?
Not really.
You just want him to win?
I just want to move on to the Roy McDonald card. I could give a shit about this card, honestly. I'm ready for Stipe next week. Stipe.
Oh man,
Stipe. Yeah.
So he's getting sponsored by Modelo, the new beer sponsor of the UFC.
Interesting. You know, they sell Modelo at the taqueria down the street, and that's the only beer they sell.
Really?
Yep.
So you might see Stipe's face at the taqueria down the street.
I'm just saying, maybe. Or something like that.
Maybe. No, it's cool because like Stipe is not a guy who's gonna talk. He's gonna fight. But all he'll do is just say in this gravelly voice like I don't care.
Right.
Over and over. But how can you not like he's a full-time firefighter and EMT as well as the UFC heavyweight champion. He's as blue collar as they come. Yep. He looks the part. Like I mean, I'm happy that he's getting a sponsorship because it seems like they're actually interested in like telling Stipe's story. So that's cool. Francis Ngannou is also obviously has a really compelling story. I think it's the best heavyweight fight in a long time. But the Bellator is a pretty decent event. I mean, who are you picking between Roy McDonald and Douglas Lima?
That's a tough one for me. I'll tell you this. I'm more familiar with Roy McDonald, so I would most likely be very biased. But Douglas Lima, from what I know of him, very, very little, because I'm not really a huge. I'm learning more about Bellator. I'm not really a huge Bellator aficionado, but I know there are some good guys like Douglas Lima out there coming out of Bellator. So he had a good performance against Lorenz Larkin.
He did.
Last fight.
Yeah. Lorenz Larkin's a pretty good welterweight. So
yeah. He beat Paul Daly a couple fights before that. I'm gonna go with Roy just because of my limited knowledge on Lima, but I mean it could go either way.
Yeah, I think the thing that McDonald's gonna have to watch out for from Lima is his left hook coming when he's backed up to the fence.
Yeah.
Roy McDonald kind of likes to put some pressure on you and back you up kind of carefully, but if he runs into that left hook, it could be a problem.
Yeah.
But the thing about Lima is I think like he's really, really tough.
Yeah.
You can't ever count him out. And so I think that it makes this a really dangerous fight for Roy. I think the interesting thing is like I think either of these guys in this fight could beat the UFC welterweight champion. Like Roy McDonald already did. You know?
Yeah. I'm ready to see that dethrone. That guy dethroned. I'm just. Yeah.
While we're on this, and because I just wrote an article about him last night. Who do you think's gonna dethrone Woodley? Is it gonna be David Till, Rafael dos Anjos, or one of these other like Usman or Colby Covington?
Dude, I could see Darren Till doing something. I don't know how good his grappling is, but I could see Darren Till having a good performance against this guy. Obviously, Dos Anjos, definitely could see him winning that shit.
I think if Dos Anjos doesn't get knocked out, that he will win.
Yeah.
Because, if it goes if it goes any length of time, sorry about that. If it goes any length of time, then then that pressure from Dos Anjos, I think, is gonna really wear on Woodley. I really don't think Woodley's gas tank is deep enough to sustain 5 rounds of like someone pressuring him unless he knocks them out or slows them down.
Right.
Like I don't even think like I think he could take Dos Anjos down, but he's not going to be able to take him down more than like 2 rounds and fight a grappling fight, because I do think it'll like drain his gas tank. I think that's why he's fought so slow in his last couple fights. Is just he can't fight at a higher pace than that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like yeah, man. I'm excited by like this whole Bellator card. I'm hoping that I'll be able to DVR it, and so I can catch both, because it's really good, man. It might even be better objectively than the UFC card.
Right.
I mean, the top 2 fights are I think on the UFC card are better.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I kind of think if you've got Michael Chandler also fighting one of the best lightweights in the world, probably would be one of the best lightweights in the world in the UFC as well, and you've got Aaron Pico fighting. Yeah. Aaron Pico's probably like the best young prospect in MMA. Like I know he lost in his first fight, so we got to kind of see what his ceiling is or what issues he's going to run into, but he's really, really talented. Like a Golden Gloves boxer and an Olympic level, or almost Olympic level wrestler, and he's like 20 years old. So I'm really excited for both of those.
So this is going to be kind of a shorter podcast this week, ladies and gentlemen. We had some technical difficulties at the beginning. That was fun, but
yeah, we did. That took up a lot of time. So anything you kind of want to go over before we call it a podcast?
I want to talk a little bit about Stipe and Francis, but I kind of want to save that for next week more so. I don't want to be repetitive.
Yeah, I agree. And we've already kind of said some things about it, so yeah, I definitely give it time when the time comes.
Right. Yeah, man. Have you been? You had a little rolling session recently, right?
Yeah. So Case Hartz does the video. He actually design the logo for this podcast, as well as does a number of did the Platinum Parry Darren Till. He animated that video, talking about, which was a hilarious story. Anyway, he invited me out to his gym, so I went out there, rolled with 5 different people, almost threw up, but I didn't. And yeah, it was pretty awesome, man. I'm probably gonna go back again tomorrow, but training is I really miss training.
Yeah, you miss training jiu-jitsu, or you just miss training in general?
I miss training in general, but this got me back into grappling specifically, because it had been probably 3 years since I had stepped inside a gym.
Yeah.
And especially did gi grappling, with not just no gi. It was
right.
Yeah. So cool. It was awesome, man. I got tapped by a black belt that wrestled with Uriah Faber in college. So that was pretty cool.
Man, that's scary. Anytime a black belt grabs you, you're just you feel their chi, or whatever you want to call it. Oh, Jesus.
You feel their kung fu, their gong fu.
I remember my jiu-jitsu coach out there in Houston grabbed me, showed me a move, and just grabbed my collar, man, and I was like, whoa, that's another level of grip strength right there. That's scary. Holy shit.
Yeah, it is scary if someone grabs, especially with the gi, if someone grabs you and you can't break their grip or get away. That is kind of frightening.
Ugh, man, that was scary. And I'm not a weak guy, but dude, that was, and he was not a big guy. He was just experienced grappler, man, scary motherfucker. He was a Kaike black belt who was who, by the way, was a Helio black belt.
Kaike?
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu, it's always interesting, tracing back the lineage, because you got the Japanese guy who went to Brazil, and then the Gracies turned it into both an art form and a grift.
Yeah.
And a religion. It was almost like a cult, like Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. That like the very very weird family with a very like kind of in many ways messed up history.
Yeah.
In Brazil.
Yeah.
But hey, it got us. They did advance martial arts knowledge,
Yeah,
especially
they did,
with
man.
the UFC.
Oh man, and plus like fucking, tracing it back to the Japanese guy, that Count Maeda or whatever his name is. How effective it became over here, and kind of breaking that bullshit kung fu nonsense mentality, which I'm very happy about.
We had that all through the 70s, right? Like all through
80s,
the 70s
yeah.
and 80s and 90s even. Just this karate is king. You know what else helped to break?
What?
This the perception that pro wrestling was real.
Oh, dude, tell me about. Oh yeah, well, did you ever seen the New Japan Pro Wrestling started by what was his name that had that fight with Muhammad Ali, Antonio Inoki?
Well, Inoki, yeah. Well, Japanese pro wrestling was a very different animal.
Well, so they make it's still fake, but they make it look like a real fight.
Yeah.
So you need to look at this thing
at least
called.
Try to imitate real.
Yeah, you need to look at this thing called. You need to go on YouTube to a channel called The Pink Man, and look up martial arts fraud Bart Vale. He talks about it's fucking hilarious because he had an NJPW fight against Ken Shamrock, and he was using his pro wrestling footage because it looked like a real fight if you cut it up, and it does look like a real because they're using real moves, real kicking, but everything, but it's fake. It's all fake, And he knocked out Ken Shamrock in one of those, and it was obviously bullshit, but he was using it as his promo video over in the States for his legitimacy to be a badass,
That's
Is that fucking hilarious? But no, yeah, I mean, I remember there something about ninjas. Remember, like, ninjas were like a huge thing for a long time. Ninjas on TV, kung fu, that fucking television show, all this chi energy bullshit, man. And
yeah, well, I mean, this stuff still floats around, but anytime now, you just like, okay, well, why don't you get in the cage? I mean, not to say like, not to say that like some art, like traditional martial arts don't have merit. Obviously, I love karate, but like it's the sense like a fight is going to be different than stepping across a mat. Like the principles can be there. You can apply them in a real fight, but it's I don't know. It's the crucible of a more open rule set where, I mean, Stephen Thompson can make karate work, but he's got to know the other stuff. He's got to be able to like step away from that wrestler who's just going to double leg him. You know what I mean? So,
well,
it's really
there are principles in Aikido that work, like certain hip tosses and shit. But as a whole, it's fucking retarded. Like, I shouldn't say retarded, but it's fucking bullshit. You're not going to wrist lock somebody and they're going to tap immediately. So the sense that you can like control someone and like de-escalate the situation is generally false. Right.
Like,
but then again, like there are some impractical things in judo too. Like there are some things that you wouldn't want to use, like unless you're very, very skilled. There's a lot of hip tossing and certain throws that you're going to use that you're going to expose your back in a lot of ways, So, and the way you land, it's not as practical as, let's say, you clinch underhooking somebody and tripping them. You're holding onto them, you're on top of them, especially for like beginners and shit like that, or in a fight. There are same thing in Taekwondo. There are some fucking flippy shit that you're not gonna fucking use. Why would you use all these flippy things that came from the point style? You're not gonna knock somebody out with certain kicks.
Right. You could, but like chances are really low.
Right.
So
right. So anyway, all right, man. Well, that's pretty good.
Yeah, everyone enjoy the shorter dose of the MMA Outsiders podcast this week. We'll be back next week, hopefully with a full-length podcast, possibly with a special guest. We'll see, to bring you, the best from outsiders' perspective on the world of MMA.
Yes,
AJ, where can the people find you?
Twitter, AJAYHERICK, all lowercase. If I'm on Instagram at the same handle. Facebook, shoot me a message. I'm going to be moving to North Carolina pretty soon, in March, actually. So that's going to be an interesting adventure. And if there's any...
Big changes coming.
Yeah, big changes. Big changes are coming. And if there is anybody out there that wants to come see me play some music, I'm going to be posting on Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. So just keep a lookout for that. All right. Andrew, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Facebook at Vorpality, VORPALITY. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next week.